Okay, welcome back. So somebody requested I do the rockers. I was gonna do them anyway, but I'm gonna do them a little bit sooner. I was gonna pull the transmission first, but I'll get these out of the way. I'm just gonna do this one side today, and if time permits, I'm gonna mount a seat too. Once you get one side, you can pretty much do the rest of them. These are a little bit different compared to putting in a floor, and I'll show you why. So with the floor, still not done welding, but you can see it kind of overlaps over top of the old metal. And you can really see it. I'll get underneath here for you. You can see it here, like I left a little bit of a lip all around where my new floor is, because it just prevents you from accidentally having gap, which is not fun to weld with this stuff. And also, I'm not like professional at this stuff. This is my first time doing this stuff, but this is just how I would approach it, and so far it's working out pretty good from a bit of research that I've done. So but yeah, on the floor I would overlap it like I have it done, and then here you're gonna have to, it's best to work in squares, like square shapes. So cut out a square, cut your piece of metal, but you can't overlap it on this. You can probably, if you can, tuck it behind this metal and then bondo over it, but to me that's too much bondo, so I'm going to try to get it as flush as I can with as little as gap, and I'll show you what I mean when I'm doing it, with the contour of this metal as I can. So yeah, I'm going to get into it. I'm going to get a hammer and lightly tap and see where all my soft spots are and what I need to cut out, because it looks like there might be some more right here. But yeah, gonna get to it. Yeah, I'm just lightly tapping. I'm not going crazy with it. You can clearly see why this stuff happens. Once you get one hole and all the dirt builds up, and the dirt holds a lot of water. This is actually pretty good over here. Yeah, I think it's just surface rust over here, so I'll have to clean that up, but it's actually pretty solid over there. It's mainly just over here, which is pretty bad. So there's lots of ways to do this. If you're marking out where you want to cut out, you can use masking tape or a Sharpie or whatever, or you can just freehand it, but I'm going to use a Sharpie and a straight edge, and try to use, like, this is what I would do. Again, I'm not like the best at this, but try to use like the straight edges that are already there. So I'm going to use this whole top edge, because I can tack it here and I can get my bends where I need them. So we're going to approach that. This is going to be a little bit tricky because it kind of contours out, but it might not end up looking perfect. You're probably going to have to use some Bondo, without a doubt, but it'll definitely be better than having a nice speed hole here. So yeah, I'll show you how I'm going to mark it out, and it's fairly simple. I'm going to try to get rid of a lot of this rust, so I'm going to mark back like right to here, probably an inch back from where this rust ends, and then I can, once I cut this out, I can see if I need to go even further back once I have a peek in here how it is. I'm going to go a little bit, this radius corner where it's rounded off from factory, I want to keep that in there. So I go at the very bottom of where the radius ends. So I still have that nice round corner, and then I can, instead of having a straight sharp corner when I put in my new metal, which is not all the time you'll have that with the rust, but you'll be able to save that corner, but you can get it with Bondo or whatever after. So yeah, I'm just going around marking that, and then I'm going to take my straight edge and mark a cut line. So that's where I'm going to cut. And I'm also going to just kind of eyeball down here. Maybe I don't have to, but it's kind of hard to get a straight edge across here. You can, if you want to, get a piece of string and hold your string up here where your mark is and down here and use that as your straight edge because it'll stick to the contour of the body. But I'm not going to go that crazy with it. I'm just going to cut my metal to shape, which actually, looking at it right now, I don't know if I have enough metal. So that's awesome. This is actually quite a bit of rust. I kind of forgot how much was here, but so yeah, grab your grinder and cut that out. You can, at the bottom if you want, leave a little lip like I was talking about with the floor, because nobody's gonna see it anyway. I might do that. Yeah, I might do that because it'll be, I might not actually. Yeah, I might not leave a lip. There might be a small one, but I'm just gonna leave it how it is. So yeah, now we cut. So if you have, like you can see right now, we have pretty much the whole shape that we need. When I build mine, like this really round corner here, it's a bit tricky to get. That might not actually be too bad, but you can pretty much use this as a template if you want, or you can get your metal up here, mark a bend line, and just I'll show you the different ways of doing it, but or how I would approach it. But yeah, it's pretty bad in here. Buff it clean, so I get rid of the majority of the rust, and then throw on some self-etching primer or weld-through primer. Probably gonna put some weld-through primer on where I'm welding, and then some self-etching on the other stuff. The weld-through helps so you can paint the backside of like your rocker panel, and the metal or the paint won't burn off, and then that spot will become a rust spot. So the weld-through primer prevents that, which I did on the whole bottom of the floor before I put it on, because you won't be able to paint in between those areas where there's a bit of gap. Even though I'm going to be seam sealing it, it's just an extra step you can take. But there's a lot of junk in there. I'm not sure if I have enough metal, but I'm just gonna double make sure. I completely forgot how much metal I had before I came here, so I might not be able to do this today, but so I need about 6 1/4 inches of metal. So I don't actually have enough metal to do the rockers today. I completely forgot about how much metal I had. I need like minimum for width 6 1/4 inches, and I've only, the smallest area of the metal that I have right now is 4 1/4, so 2 inches short there. So I'll have to pick up another sheet of metal just to bend it up and finish that up. But for now, I think I'm just gonna try and mount a seat with the metal that I have. I also have to put just a small little piece in the floor, but I have to build some seat mounts and figure out how the seat actually sits in the vehicle. I think it was pretty close, but needs to go up a little bit. But yeah, I'll try and tackle that for now. Sorry I couldn't get the rockers done this episode, but they'll definitely be done next episode. I just have to pick up more metal. I have to remember. It sucks because the nearest store to me for stuff like that is an hour away, so it's 2 hours of driving before I even get to work on this thing again, and it's already 1 o'clock in the day. So yeah, I'm gonna try and tackle a seat and see how that goes. So I don't know how much you guys will be able to see, but I think I have to cut out this floor mount because it's pretty crusty, and I think there's a hole underneath it from the rust. So definitely got to take care of that first, I think. But I'm just gonna set the seat in here to see what all needs to be done. My plan was to, once I have it in here where it kind of needs to be, put some of this over top of the existing metal, kind of as a secondary support to weld on, then use these as mounts. I'm not sure if I'm going to use these still or not. I might just make my own, but we'll see. I just have to make sure the seat is in there good, because when I get in a crash, it is pretty vital that the seat stays where it is. I don't want to be flying out of the car with the seat. Let's see here. Oh, this is scary. Yeah, it's definitely up too high, but I mean, don't get me wrong, it's very comfortable like this, but you almost don't want comfortability in a car. was a lot trickier. That's actually almost right where the seat needs to be. Oh yeah, that's pretty good. I don't know if I can slide this forward. Oh, no, I can't. That's actually perfect. And this will come down. Yeah, that's beautiful. So that's pretty much right where it needs to be. The only problem I have with this seat is there's a plastic cup on this side and it hits the I took it out for now, but it hits the trunk release and the gas cap thing. But I should be able to make that work. But these seats are 120% better than the seats that were in it. But yeah, again, I've never done this before, so do this at your own will. But I'm going to be using, like, this is 18 gauge metal. I'm not going to be using this for the mounts, way too thin. I have some 3/8 metal, which is way thicker, and yeah, there's no playing around with seats. If you get in an accident, you want the seat to stay where it is. You don't want to end up through the windshield with your seat. So.
Ed boys? Many doors, yes? Too much for couch potato Ed boys like yourself.
So I do have enough metal to fix this. I'll kind of show you how I do it. So I got a small piece here. I was going to use it for a little gauge panel inside the stock radio bezel, but I think it'll work perfect right here. So this one, I'm going to weld it probably on the outside, but yeah, I'll show you how I go about doing this. So there's many ways to get your shape, but I'm going to cut it a bit long, so I'll just get my width, and by that I mean here and here, just because my width is the same throughout this whole thing, and then it's hard to get, because these pieces are bent, so it's hard to get the right length for that, so I'm just going to cut it longer than what it needs to be. And like I said, with the floor, I'll do a bit of overlap, so when I do my bend, it'll overlap a little bit on the, this is how I'm going to weld it. I'm going to weld it on the outside like this, but it'll overlap, and I can use that overlap instead of filling gaps. So I'm going to cut my width, and actually no, I'm not. So you can, there's lots of ways to get your bends. You can measure them, measure to the center of your bend, which is normally what I do, but it seems like I can kind of cheat it. So this piece actually ended up being perfect. You can see I'm going to have a little bit of overlap, so it'd be easier to weld. So here I can kind of see, I can mark my bend, I'll just put a line here and here, so that's where my plate lines up. So I can kind of see where I need to bend it, start bending it. So probably right here and right here, as well as looks like maybe right here a bit. And yeah, we'll try that for now. But I'll show you essentially the same process as the rocker panel, except like I said, there's not going to be any overlap. So these are my bend lines. So I'm going to take my zip cut. I'm going to run it across here. I'm not going to cut through. I'm just going to make a line like halfway deep to the material. And it just makes it so much easier to bend. You don't have to do it this way, but again, this is the way that I do it. So take a straight edge just off the radial bezel, but it's still a straight edge, so it'll work. So that's where I need to run my zip cut to bend. And yeah, so I run my zip cut across here. Not going to cut through all the way, just a little bit. Yeah, it's nice to do this over bending it in the vise without doing this, because it's easier to manipulate if you need to bend it back some or the other way, vice versa. So you can see, here's my line. I could probably go a little deeper. I suggest, if you're doing this, to get a pair of vice grips like this. They're fairly cheap, but you can pretty much put it right where your line is. So right now I could tell, like, I could go a little bit deeper because I could just feel the metal, the whole sheet wanting to bend. Kind of hard to explain over camera, but you'll kind of get a feel for what I mean if you do this yourself. So grab it, bend it to how you think your contour is. So that seems, actually I could probably go a little more, but we'll check it anyway. Yeah, so I can go a little bit more. You can see some gap up here, but you can definitely see like how easy this really is. And go a little bit more. And like I said, the zip cut helps with, like, if I need to bend it back this way, I'm not gonna like bend the metal in here anywhere trying to bend it back that way. So that's pretty close. And always start with one bend. Don't try to do multiple bends at the one time, because sometimes things will change when you're trying to do it. So that's actually really close right there, and we're actually still lined up with the marks that I made over here, so that's good. Not that it matters too much because we have a little bit of overlap, which that overlap is also nice because it gives you a little bit more to play with if you do mess up a little bit. Now the rocker panels, when I get to do those, they're a little bit more precise because the way that I do them anyway. So that's something you have to just starting here is good practice, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. So I can kind of see, like, we have a big gap here, a big gap here. So this is where it gets a little tricky. So I can do, if I grab my Sharpie, so again, same process. And sometimes you'll have to, I might have to on this one because it's not a large gap here, and it's quite a large gap here, so I might have to cut and bend up. I'll show you what I mean if I have to do it, but line. That's probably too much. See, so with that zip cut line, it's just way easier to bend back, and even back here, like, they look nice and clean. And that's why I put the tack welds across here once it is bent the way that I need it. That's why you've seen in the floor episode there's a bunch of little tack welds, just it thickens the material where you cut some out. So you're making it stronger too. So yeah, I bent that way too much, so I have to come back quite a bit actually. So to get the shape that I want, I'm gonna have to cut out a little bit of this corner, just because it's, you guys can see, but the metal I'm bending, it's hitting up here on the bottom of the floor, so I'm just gonna cut a little bit of it out. Not too much, I'm still gonna leave enough for an overlap. Just gonna kind of eyeball it. Make sure you clean up your sharp edges too, or that you're wearing gloves at least. See, that gives me a little bit more to play with. Still probably cut out a little more, but so I think I need another bend line because it sits like this, and this whole corner is like probably 3/8 of an inch gap, which we do not want. So I'm gonna try to take this corner all the way up to here and do another bend line and kind of bend this up closer to the metal. I don't know if it's gonna work or not, but we'll give it a go. So let's do a straight edge here. And again, in no way do I know what I'm doing, but it's just the way that I would approach it. Looks like it's gonna work pretty good. Yeah, that's actually not bad. I mean, I think I can bend this up a little more. Maybe not. And I might have to cut a little bit off this top here. Something like that. So yeah, this stuff definitely takes patience and time, but well worth it in the end, in my opinion. So from this point, I think we're pretty close. If you still have a bit of gap, you can use your overlap that you have and throw a couple tack welds where it's nice and tight and touching the metal. And then you can take your motivator, your hammer, like right now I could just push this down with my hand, or you can push it down and tack it and essentially close up that gap so you're not welding a huge gap. And it's almost impossible with this stuff because it's so thin, but yeah, you can essentially push it down, get it to where you need to be. If you need to put a little slit, like right here, I might put a little slit here and here so this bends down easier, so I can push it and weld it and close up that gap. Do what you need to do to make it work, but like I said, I'm not professional at this. This is the first time I've ever done it, but this is just how I would approach it. And I'm gonna throw some self-etching, or some weld-through primer on this because there's gonna be exposed metal in areas I won't be able to paint it. So it's just that extra layer of protection. But yeah, this is essentially how I'm gonna do the rockers too. Maybe it's definitely not as complicated as this, at least I don't think. Like this piece here has quite a few bends in it, so obviously the areas on the floor you're working with are a lot harder than I think a simple, like out here is just 3 bends on the rockers. So but yeah, that's another rust area fixed. And depending on the time, I'm still gonna try and mount a seat, but we'll see once I get done this, because this stuff does take a while to weld. It's just essentially a bunch of tiny tacks, and yeah, they take a while. So I'll get back to you in a minute. So yeah, this is the final product. Now, it's definitely not the prettiest. There's a little bit of gap there, and I forgot to clean some spots. Definitely make sure your metal's clean. I'm a journeyman welder, and this stuff still is tricky to me. I can weld pipe and whatever, but put this stuff in front of me and it's still tricky. Main thing really is your heat. So if you find one spot's getting really, it burns through a lot, just stop, go to another spot. You'll see me jumping around on this, different areas a whole bunch, not focusing on one area. It's mainly just a bunch of tack welds. It's kind of a feel thing too, really. I mean, if you feel like it's getting too hot, you can turn your welder down a little bit, but it's still tricky to me. I'm also using 030 wire. I had 035 in there, and 030 helps out a lot better. I think you can go down to an 025. The smaller the better, because the less heat it uses, so to burn off. So I may try to do a little bit of the seat right now, because I cut out the part where I marked where my hole was supposed to be for the seat. So I'm gonna just slap it back in there real quick, line it up with the other marks, and I may use those two little blocks I showed earlier to raise the back of the seat up, because there is some adjustment to lift the seat up if I need to get me to sit back further in the seat. So yeah, I'm gonna check that out real quick and see what I need to do here. So this is kind of what I had in mind. You can see, maybe you can't, but anyway, the kind of right there, there's the factory, or the mount on this lines up with the bolt hole where the factory seat bolted up. It's just a little, the angle of the bracket isn't right, so it's a little, a 1/4 inch gap, so I can bend that bracket. And then I have these, so that's where we just welded. I was gonna put these here. Pretty much they're exactly where they need to be. It's not perfectly lined up with this hole, but just to kind of get the idea in your guys' head. Yeah, so these will be back here. Like I was saying earlier, I'm gonna put plate underneath these, so they'll still come up maybe 3/8 of an inch, and just to really stiffen the seat. But yeah, these will be here. I'll obviously level this one out a little better, make it look neater, but just kind of to get the idea in your guys' head. And oh yeah, sticker too, save the single cam. I thought about making those and selling them, but we'll see. Also, I forgot to mention earlier, so the Niztune ECU, they support certain widebands. I believe this eBay wideband is pretty much the same setup as Innovative, I think, which they support, but I have this weird USB thing because I want to be able to read my air fuel ratios off of Niztune instead of looking at my wideband all the time. And there's also a self-learn function on there, so it'll auto-correct some stuff for me and help me out if I decide to mess around with it a little bit. So I have that coming in the mail. It essentially just hooks into the signal from the wideband, and you can just run a USB separately for the wideband into the computer. And yeah, it's like $60, but I think it's well worth it. And I'll be doing a video on that too. If you guys are running Niztune, if I had my time back, I probably would have went standalone, but cost-wise, Niztune is definitely the way to go in my opinion. But yeah, I'm going to maybe potentially do this right now. I'm kind of running out of time. I have places to be, but yeah, I'm gonna see what happens here. So that's pretty much gonna be it for me today. Batteries in my grinder are dead, so I can't really continue as it is right now. Still have to build the plates for the seats, but yeah, in the next episode I'll be tackling the rockers too. Hopefully we'll have the seat mounted up. Still have a little bit of welding to do on the floor. But yeah, I'll have more metal for the rocker panels, and I was hoping to get those done this time, but see you guys in the next one. Have a good day.
Oh my gosh, there he is.